20. Lucky you. You got your name on the tombstone. But think about it, if you weren't 1 through 19, that meant that your name was lost to history. Now, ladies and gentlemen, coming up on your right, please look into the Huguenot Cemetery, take lots of pictures. We think this is actually the reason why there's so much spiritual activity spotted in here, as maybe these spirits are still in anguish over the ways their bodies were treated after death. If you're on the left side of the trolley, don't you worry, that's something for you as well. If you look just up ahead, you'll see our old city gates, where one of our most famous ghostly residents is often spotted. Her name is Elizabeth, and in life she was the young daughter of the city's old gatekeeper. She would often accompany her father out to the job, waving at people who entered our city, until both she and her father died of yellow fever. But this does not mark the end of Elizabeth's story, as she is still seen at those gates today. Sometimes tourists will ask local shopkeepers about the young historic reenactors seen standing at the gates, waving at cars who pass by on these roads. But they're very shocked to discover that no such historic reenactor exists. In fact, the apparition of Elizabeth is so lifelike and so well known that sometimes people walk right through those gates just for the chance to see her. So if you have some time left in your journey here in St. Augustine, maybe even after this tour, I'd recommend you do the same. It is said that if you walk right through the dead center of the old city gates, you'll see a young girl or feel a sudden chill. And if you do, be sure to say hello, Elizabeth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do know that we just boarded the trolley, but I'm actually very excited to tell y'all that we are fast approaching our first stop of the tour. We're headed towards the Talamado Cemetery. This is the oldest cemetery in all of St. Augustine and was a Spanish Catholic burial site. But before that, it was actually a Native American burial site in the same spot. So here we have 2 cemeteries stacked on top of each other. Now let's go over a few safety things. First of all, I'd like you guys to please remain seated until the trolley comes to a full and complete stop. Take a look at the seats you are in now. These are the seats you will want to return to when we get back, especially with such a large group. I would not recommend trying to save your spot by leaving an item behind those. There will be no one to watch over that item when we are gone. I'm going to pull over here. I'm going to exit the trolley, then your driver will. Then I'm going to ask you to please follow me up onto this platform to your right.
We're number 3.
All right, welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Talamado Cemetery. Even though I'm all the way over here in the corner, don't you worry, none of y'all actually have to look at me for this part. I'd actually recommend looking into the cemetery and taking lots of pictures as I tell you our first Talamado story of the night. Now, looking here, I'm not gonna, lie and say that the Talamado is the scariest place to be. I mean, it's very well lit, we've got parking lots, we've got businesses, but back in the late early 1900s, this was very different. I mean, think about what it might have looked like back then. The Talamado Cemetery was a very scary place to be. It was dark, it was lonesome, it was mysterious, and it was the epicenter of many ghostly tales here in town. Now, our first story tonight is about 2 big brave boys who decided that they were going to be the ones to stay in the cemetery to prove those stories wrong. They were going to camp out in the Talamado for just one night, and they were going to prove that ghosts aren't real. See, our fateful night begins. The boys pitch their tent right under that great big oak tree in the center of the cemetery, and they go to bed. But later that night, they are woken by a strange rustling sound outside. Thinking it was simply one of their friends, they opened the tent up and went out to greet him. They were instead met with the ghost of a woman hovering towards them. She had a long white gown, long silver hair, and most alarmingly, she had no face. So terrified, these boys ran from the cemetery screaming, and when they got home, they told this story to every adult they knew, just trying to make sense of what they'd seen. That is, until the next day, an old man suddenly approached the boys, and he said to them, "I know who you saw in the cemetery." As it happened, about 100 years prior, there was a young woman who lived here and who died here of heart failure just a week before her wedding. And so her parents saw fit to bury her in her wedding dress as a final tribute to the marriage that could never be. Now, upon hearing this, everything clicked for the boys. Everything suddenly made sense now. That long white gown, simply her wedding dress, the silver was her veil, and the reason she appeared to have no face, well, that was because her veil would have been caked with nearly 100 years of death, dirt, and decay. So, as the man stepped back into the shadows, the boys like him vowed to stick by their stories for the rest of their lives and to never enter the Talamado again. The ghost bride, as she is now known, is often seen wandering right around here on the left side of the cemetery, so that'll be that fence right opposite of us, just straight ahead. She is often seen walking slowly from one side of that fence to the next. Now guys, for our next story, can anyone see that great big oak tree to your left, just next to the front gate of the cemetery? Alright, hopefully. Next thing I'm going to point out, though, is actually pretty difficult to spot from the platform. This is a very small tombstone just underneath that tree. Don't you worry, though, because on our way out, we're going to be driving right alongside the front gate, so you'll be able to see it, know to look out for it. Now, that tombstone belongs to one James P. His ghost is often seen wandering the cemetery grounds late at night, and even playing in the tall branches of the tree just above his grave. Many believe that this is how he came to his untimely demise, falling from those very branches at the age of only 5 years old. But if this wasn't sad enough, I'm sorry to say that it only gets worse. As the next thing you will notice about that tombstone is that it is all by its lonesome. That is because nobody claimed James after he died. We don't know if he had a family or even friends. Maybe he's lonely. And maybe this is the reason why his ghost is most often seen by children. So, can I ask you a question tonight? Okay, let's see. If you saw the ghost of a little boy in the cemetery asking you to, just hop the fence, go play a game with him, would you? No. Oh. Very quick on that one. I gotta say, that's a very responsible decision. Unfortunately, I guess that means that James will have to wait just a little longer to play with his brave, though, maybe not the smartest playmate. In the meantime, though, if y'all want to follow me off the platform and into the Wax Museum for the next
What is it?
of our tour.
Yeah, that's probably them killing.
Be better.
What?
It's these lights running around. Be better. See, I don't know. I think it's maybe.
Don't forget to look in the trees, Layla. Excuse me.
We're going to that place you like, the Max.
Max.
Yeah, the Max prison. There you go.
So a girl that got married and a little boy, right?
What? So lucky.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a Disney thing.
This looks like Alabama.
Sounds like Alabama, huh? Ooh, coordinate.
Moving in there. Hey, dinner!
Did y'all go hear sis?
Having fun?
Yeah.
No.
Bentley wouldn't play with that kid, I guarantee it.
They didn't have Amber Alerts back then?
What does he look like?
Not fun. My bad.
Ain't that Angelina
Is
Jolie?
he scary?
He's still Jolene.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Thanks, old man.
Ooh, it feels good.
Sorry. I didn't mean to.
Jolene. Oh, that looks like Dad if he was taller. That's Philip, man.
That's Philip.
It's Frankenstein.
I'm going to tell Philip that's Philip.
Keep moving. There's no stairs or bumps in the
See
floor.
me and this display to my right. Everyone, welcome in. Please step all the way inside to allow our entire party room. We don't want anyone stuck in the dark and scary hallway. Oh, I do have to add, please don't touch any of the wax figures out on display. I feel like that one should be pretty obvious, but... Oh, awesome.
You got everybody.
Thank you. In that case, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our little chamber of horrors. Now that we're all here, I have a very important question for you folks tonight. I mean, I know it's a little bit personal, but bear with me. Is anyone here scared of being buried alive? Oh, okay. Seems like a lot.
Haven't thought about it.
Oh, what do you think now?
Still not thinking about it.
Oh, all right, that's fair. Follow-up question, go with this though. Has anyone here ever been buried alive? No. Yeah, that's not what I thought. See, being buried alive doesn't sound particularly pleasant, but it's also not something that we have to actively worry about in 2023. Due to modern medical practices, there are lots of ways to determine whether a body is alive or dead before we decide to bury them, but this wasn't always the case. Say, back in the 1800s, being buried alive was something that a lot of people feared because it happened quite often. This was due in large part to the medicines used in this time period. A lot of these medicines were just concoctions made of things like water, grain alcohol, opium. And these concoctions would put patients into such a deep coma-like state that doctors of the time could not tell if they were alive or dead. They'd simply be buried as is. And as a result, oftentimes bodies would be exhumed and found with their fingernails missing, claw marks littering the inside lids of their coffins. But eventually all of this fear and all of this terror led to something very important. The invention of the safety coffin. I have half a model over here, I'll keep it quick though. Safety coffin begins with a normal wooden coffin deep under the ground, about here or so, but it would have a long tube and a string that ran all the way up to your tombstone. One end of the string, there's that bell, and then the other end would split off and tie to several of your limbs. So all you need to do is start wiggling, and that bell would start ringing. Now, this worked pretty well during the daytime, but at night, usually there was no one in the cemetery who was able to hear that bell. Until they were paid to do it. See, men were hired to stand in the graveyard, shovels in hand, wandering the cemeteries, waiting to hear that sound of the bell, and these men were known to be working the graveyard shift. Normally that one doesn't get any kind of reaction, so I'm counting it as a win today. In that case, we'll go a little further. We'll say that you, sir, have unfortunately been buried alive. Sorry, nothing personal, you're just the closest. But in this situation, you don't have to worry too much because you had a safety coffin just like this. When you woke up underground, you started wiggling, someone dug you up, everything was fine. Well, once you reached the surface, you could then tell everyone here that you were really saved by the bell. Yeah, so full disclosure here, I'm not just subjecting you guys to bad puns for my own enjoyment. First of all, they're all in my script, and second of all, these are all historically accurate. Speaking of history, our next story is going to dive a little bit into this town's history. Pirates. So anyone here like pirates? Yeah. Oh, okay. I got a feeling you guys will like our next story. It's about the man right up here on stage, Andrew Ransom. Now, while he nor any other pirate for the matter never attacked Potter's Wax Museum specifically, back in the day, St. Augustine's coast was plagued with pirates. English pirates would ransack and plunder Spanish treasure ships. One of these pirates was Andrew Ransom himself. That is until the day when he and his men were all caught off the coast of Milano Beach. See, Andrew's men were put to hard work building the Castillo de San Marcos, but that's not what you do with a pirate captain. Andrew was to be executed in front of the entire town via garrote. Garrote, like the one we got right up here, is actually pretty similar to a noose, but it's meant to inflict much more pain and suffering before death. And of course, with that in mind, do I have a very brave volunteer to help me demonstrate it? No. Okay, I mean, that was pretty quick. Do I need to worry or anything? No. Okay. Well, if you want to take a step up here, I won't stop you. Alright, if I can get you, just keep going, stay with your back to the post-face crowd. Perfect. So I'm going to join you, but first we're going to set the scene, okay? You are Andrew Ransom, the pirate. Give me an arr.
Arr!
You guys, the townsfolk, you've all come here to see a pirate's execution, and as the executioner steps up to announce the names and crimes of the guilty.
You have been found guilty of the crime piracy, and you have been sentenced to die on the gallows in the town square. I have already run the rope through the hole in the post. Now, bring the rope around your thieving throat and tie it to a wooden baton behind the post. With each turn of the baton, the rope will slowly go tighter until you die of suffocation. Why is he smiling? Bleeding to death in public. You can't be smiling about that. Maybe we'll try for my favorite. Decapitation! What say you? Yes? Yes. And if all goes well, we'll be treated to tea and cookies at the governor's. Not for pirates. Stop smiling.
You see, no one in town was happier to see our pirate executed than the governor himself. So much so, in fact, that he and the soldiers started placing bets on how many turns of the rope it would take to finish him off. I mean, I'll give you like 13 or so, maybe. But do I have any guesses from you folks tonight?
Can we say mercy?
Yes, the more turns of the rope, the more pain for the pirate, the more fun for us.
Alright, I guess we'll find out though, because on the first turn of the rope, Andrew
Now, wait, girls. You're doing very well. They're obviously all terrified, but this moment deserves gravitas. People have come from miles away for this moment. Let me show you how to do it. With the first turn of the rope. Try that.
first turn.
Help her with the
First turn.
everyone together just like that. With the coarse braid and fiber bit into Ranson's neck, and yet he remained eerily twerking and jerking. With the second turn of the rope, someone realized Ranson was holding rosary beads. What would an English Protestant pirate be doing holding Catholic rosary beads? Very strange. Third turn of the rope, Ranson began to struggle for air. And sing a little song. Fourth turn of the rope finally tore his skin. The blood began. Fifth turn of the rope, Ranson's eyes bulged from his head. Yes. Sixth turn of the rope broke. And Andrew Ranson took in a huge breath of air. That's it. And the crowd, as one, gasped. Really? The massive crowd, as one, gasped and held until a priest stepped forward. And the priest declared for everyone to hear, "We have seen a miracle."
We have seen a miracle.
And the priest helped Ranson to the steps of the Catholic Church. Once they reached the church, the priest granted Ranson sanctuary, and everyone gave the pirate a round of applause. Everyone except the most important among us, our governor, and he was furious. The governor expected to see Ranson on the garrote all day long, suffering 60, 70 turns of the rope and then die. But no, our governor sees Ranson on the steps of the Catholic Church, smiling. Andrew Ranson lived safely in our church for many years, even some say helping St. Augustine. He worked on the completion of the Castile, and with the English siege of 1702, Andrew Ranson actually interrogated English prisoners.
Good job.
On behalf of our Spanish troops, proving himself not simply a murderer, but a traitor to his own kind. And I share with you something I should not. Andrew Ranson was released in 1702, and that's when he got his revenge. He married one of our Spanish girls, the governor's only daughter. It was she who had slipped him the rosary beads, and together their children, their children's children live in St. Augustine. Now,
Can we act that out?
I like you.
My friends, some say it was a miracle that day in 1684, but I know better. It was an unholy twist of fate, and I can fix it.
Oh, no, let's
Right
give our
now.
executioner a big round of applause. Thank you.
I don't want a round of applause. I want a round of throat.
No, and you follow your driver back to the trolley. Please hurry, I am calling you guys.
Top notch.
Man, he's scared.
Everyone, sorry, just gotta help our driver back up really quick. Is that really a free spot? You can see that. Yeah, we're good.
That sounded eerie. That backing up sounded eerie. You hear that?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the trolley. I really hope you enjoyed our first stop at the tour. Now, our only thing is, though, is as we are leaving a haunted wax museum, I have to conduct just a little test to make sure that none of my esteemed guests have been replaced with evil wax figures. Don't you worry, my test is very simple. I recommend looking to your right, looking to your left, and then, of course, pinching the person next to you. This is going to reveal something to you or could be very funny.
I'm not next to you.
Remember that if these squeal, then they're real. Which, I mean, makes sense. A little bit concerning, but we are already moving, so we might as well continue. Hey, I'll count that. Now, I did mention earlier that the cemetery where it's at was built over top of ancient Native American burial grounds. What I did not mention is so is the building we were just in. Potter's Wax Museum, formerly the old Spicer drugstore. Now, the drugstore was opened back in 1886. In the older section of the building you'll see coming up on your right is said to have been built right on top of the burial site of Chief Talamato himself. In fact, this theory is so well known that sometimes people will stop by the front of the drugstore to check out the totem that resides within, dedicated to Chief Talamato, is still intact as to appease the spirits. It is said that if anything were to happen to that totem, it would call for the very end of St. Augustine as we know it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, coming up on the right side of the trolley just about now, you'll see the Talamato Cemetery from the front view. So if you'd like to take any photos tonight, I take your phones and cameras out now. Now, I'm going to point out two very important things as we pass. First of all, in the center of the cemetery, you will see a large stone bust that marks the final resting place of the very first bishop in all of Florida, Bishop Barrow. And as we approach the corner of the cemetery, you guys are going to be able to see James's tombstone. Now, I know that one is, again, pretty difficult to spot from the platform, so definitely take advantage of this opportunity. Take some photos of it as it comes up. And if you happen to catch anything ghostly, supernatural, paranormal, etc. in those photos tonight, please post them online to your favorite social media site with the hashtag #PostAGhost, or you can send it directly into our website, and it might just end up in Cromwell's book for other guests to see. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start with a little bit of a warning for our next story tonight. It's a little bit disturbing, it's a little bit graphic, but if you look past that, I think it could make a pretty good bedtime story for any of you folks on board with children. Now, this is the story of Chief Osceola, and it takes place at the end of the Second Seminole War. Now, there are very heavy losses on both sides of this war, and so it was decided that Osceola was going to be summoned down to the Castillo de San Marcos, then known as Fort Marion at the time, with the promise of a peace treaty. When he arrived, though, Osceola noticed that there was no peace treaty in sight. He was instead tricked, trapped, and held prisoner at the fort for many months. Here, he began to grow very ill, so they assigned him a personal doctor by the name of Dr. Frederick Whedon. Dr. Whedon was a pretty strange guy, and as he started to treat Osceola, everyone in the fort noticed that Osceola only started to grow sicker and sicker. Eventually, he had to be transferred up to a fort in South Carolina where he died of malaria. But here's not where things get weird. Things really take a turn after Osceola's death, when Dr. Whedon requested just a moment alone with the body, at which point he laid Osceola's body out on his medical table, grabbed his sharpest scalpel, and began to slowly sever Osceola's head from his body. After which he actually put the head right back where it belonged, had a little ceremonial scarf around the neck so that no one would know that anything was amiss, and no one did know, even at the funeral, which was open casket. But at the end of this funeral, Dr. Whedon requested another moment alone with the body. He grabbed Osceola's head, shoved store for the evening. It is also said that the Whedon children were the best behaved children in all of St. Augustine. And it seems like Dr. Whedon also wanted well-behaved grandchildren because he gifted that head to his daughter on her wedding night. Now, obviously, she and her husband didn't really want this thing, so they donated it to a medical research facility up in New York that mysteriously burned down just a few years later. It is said that that head vanished in the fire. Now, ever since then, people have begun seeing a headless figure wandering the streets of St. Augustine, sometimes on a horseback, oftentimes up near the waterfront. And if we are to believe that that is the spirit of Chief Osceola, then we are to believe that he will be doomed to wander these streets for eternity, searching for something that he will never find again. Now, speaking of the waterfront, that's where our next story takes place. It's about one of buildings up on there where a very strange and ghostly light is seen shining at the rooftop. Let me tell you why. Our story starts all the way back in the 1920s in the Prohibition era, 100 years ago, and during this time the Casablanca Inn was run by one very keen businesswoman by the name of Miss Bradshaw. And one day Miss Bradshaw noticed that two of her regulars would always check into their rooms, but they would never stay the night. And this made Miss Bradshaw so curious that one night she decided to follow those men outside. And when she did, she discovered that they were secretly rum runners, selling their liquor out on the side of the road. Now, instead of being upset that they were conducting illegal activity, Miss Bradshaw instead saw an opportunity here. She decided to approach those men with a deal. If they were to conduct their rum-running business from within Miss Bradshaw's inn, they would get protection, and in return, Miss Bradshaw would get a cut of the profits. And unfortunately for the three of them, the Casablanca Inn just so happened to be a favorite inn for many government officials to stay at when they were here in town on the lookout for rum runners. But Miss Bradshaw didn't let this deter her. She instead came up with a plan. Every night, Miss Bradshaw would make sure that her inn was free from any pesky government officials, and if this was true, she would go up to the very top balcony of the Casablanca Inn, what's known as a widow's walk, and she would wave her lantern high. Men would see this light and know that it was safe to come into town and conduct business as usual. If they did not see the light, they knew to stay far, far away. Now, eventually, Miss Bradshaw fell in love with one of those rum runners, but as the Prohibition era ended, so did their scheme, and so did their relationship. They said that the man never showed his face back in St. Augustine again, but Miss Bradshaw ever persisted every night until her death, and sometimes even beyond it. She could be seen at the very top of the Casablanca Inn, still waving her lantern high, hoping that her long-lost love would see it and return. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Casablanca Inn will be coming up on the left side of the trolley. It's that building with the tiki torches and the Christmas lights out front. Be sure to take any phones and cameras out now if you'd like to take photos. Be sure to look up to the very top balcony into the widow's walk and try to spot Miss Bradshaw and her lantern. If you don't really see her out and about right now, don't you worry, as she makes her presence within the inn very well known too. So if you have some time left in your journey here in St. Augustine, again, maybe even after the store, I'd recommend going into the Casablanca. Miss Bradshaw is often seen turning on and off lamps and televisions, even when they are unplugged, and she can sometimes be spotted in the mirror behind the bar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just up ahead of us, you're going to see one of the most recognizable landmarks we've got here in St. Augustine. You know it, you love it, hopefully. The Castillo de San Marcos. What you might not know is that this is also a hotspot for paranormal activity. So as you pass, be sure to keep your eyes peeled and your cameras ready. You can see the flash of a cannon, even though surely none of them have gone off. You can see eerie, shadowy figures wandering the fort grounds. If you decide to wander these grounds yourself at night, I'd recommend it. It is said that if you put your ear up to one of the walls, you could hear screaming coming from within. Or if you are very lucky, you could even spot a woman in white that many believe to be the spirit of one Dolores Martin. Now, to understand Dolores' story, we need to start by talking about someone else, Sergeant Tuttle. Sergeant Tuttle was the man in charge of this fort back in the 1830s when it was known as Fort Marion under U.S. control. Now, one day Sergeant Tuttle had his men rearrange the heavy brass and iron cannons you'll find on the upper gut deck of the Castillo. When they ran into one cannon that simply would not budge. As they tried to push it, they noticed cracks starting to form in the ground beneath them. Eventually, the cannon fell straight through a now gaping hole in the ground and into some room on the first floor of the Castillo. Now, obviously, Sergeant Tuttle was not too pleased with this development, so he told his men to go downstairs and retrieve this cannon. The men said, yes, sir. They went downstairs to do so, and then they could not find that cannon anywhere. They searched every single room downstairs, but they all came out mysteriously empty. How do you lose a giant brass and iron cannon? The answer just might surprise you, as it did surprise those soldiers. You see, the cannon had fallen they hoisted the cannon up through the ceiling, and it's only then, when the men got a chance to take a break, they finally looked down. Now, this entire time in the room, they'd assumed that the things they'd been stepping on, those weird things they'd been tripping on, were just, say, bits of stone, bits of wall, bits of the arena. But to their shock and disgust, they discovered that they were actually stepping over bones. Where did these bones come from? Well, allow me to present you with a theory. About 50 years prior, the man in charge of this fort was one Commandant Garcia Martin. He had a lovely wife named Dolores, and a first officer who also thought Dolores was pretty lovely. It is said that these two had an affair and disappeared around the same time. So did they run away together to Spain or to Cuba to live out the rest of their long, happy lives? Or more likely, did a jealous husband catch them, and in a fit of rage, seal them away forever in this little forgotten place, and tomb with only the scent of Dolores' rose perfume to keep them company? If you ask the National Park Service, they'll tell you that the only remains found in that room were simply animal bones. But as always, I will let you come to your own conclusions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if our stories haven't quite been scary enough for you folks tonight, let me tell you not to worry, as we are fast approaching one of the most horrific buildings in the state of Florida. It's listed on the National Registry of Haunted Places and has been visited by many ghost hunting experts over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, our next stop tonight is the Old Jail. Now, that lovely Queen Anne Victorian-style building might look very pretty on the outside, but let me assure you that there is nothing pretty about what happened within those walls. See, the jail was originally constructed with the intent to contain hatred, rage, greed, and violence. But we think this might have worked a little too well. See, the energies are still present. They have been experienced by our daytime tour staff, paranormal investigators, and yes, even guests. If you head down to the jail during the daytime and you take their tour, they can tell you all about the jail's horrid history and about the absolutely inhumane conditions that inmates there had to endure. Say, no running water, no electricity, overcrowding, and torturous punishments were just the tip of the iceberg. It's no surprise to learn that here the life expectancy for inmates was only 2 years, even though the average sentence was about 5. It's no surprise to learn that the jail was closed down in 1953 due to these horrific conditions, and it is absolutely no surprise to learn that with a history like this, we've gotten some very strong manifestations in the building. Employees working at the jail even today have reported being pushed down the stairs, feeling the cold touch of an unseen hand, and even going home to discover that they have been covered in mysterious scratch marks. All this goes to show that here at the Old Jail, even if you're the only person in the building, you are never truly alone. Now, that's not to make everyone think that all of our manifestations are particularly violent or even physical. Some of them are a bit more subtle, like one that occurred to a group of local paranormal investigators who came back to the jail in 2010. And they asked the spirits how many people had died in this building. They got an answer in the form of an EVP. EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon. This is a voice embedded in white noise that many believe is the dead trying to communicate with us. And so, we will play that for you now. Listen closely, it says there were only 8. This refers to the only 8 officially documented executions to occur here at Death Row, which we're going to be talking about inside the jail. So ladies and gentlemen, please grab your belongings and meet me outside.
You've seen, what's that movie?
The Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I need something at work. Maybe I got pushed by a ghost today.
She's so excited.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're just gathering around out here. Don't feel, feel free to take a few steps closer. No, that's the jail. Okay, cool. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Old Jail. It's at this point in the tour I do need to make you folks aware of a few safety things. First of all, the rooms we'll be going into are dark. The floors are old and uneven, and we'll be going up one flight of stairs and down another. Unfortunately, because this is a historic building, we don't have any elevators available, so if you have any mobility issues, or if you'd simply prefer not to go inside, I'd like to invite you to please take a seat here at our benches at the trolley depot behind you. We'll be back shortly, and anyone else, please follow me.
I never want to hear you say I can't time.
I'm not the only one going to
Brady, you got her.
I ain't helping.
Dude.
No, it's a ginger. Booty hole for her.
None of y'all go into these 4 cells, but you're very free to take as many photos as you would like from within the doorways. Hey everyone, welcome in. Please step all the way inside the room. We're going to just take a few more steps away from the doorway, whether that be to the side, down here. We've got some more room to my left if anyone wants to come and utilize that space. Just have to make sure that everyone is coming in here and everyone is staying safe. Hey everyone, welcome in. Please step all the way inside to allow our entire party room. And if you didn't hear it before, I do have to ask that none of y'all go into these 4 cells. If you'd like to take any photos from within the doorways though, definitely feel free to do that. Just have to make sure that, everyone's staying safe. Hey guys, welcome in. Hey everyone, welcome in. Please step all the way inside. We do have some more room to my left if anyone wants to utilize that. We just have to make sure that we are not creating a block at that door so that everyone can come in here and join us. Hey guys, welcome in. Hey, welcome in guys. Please step all the way inside the room. If we are near the doorway, I need you guys to just take a few more steps away from it. Okay, oh my god, is there anyone behind you?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, good.
Brady.
Okay, this is getting a little bit annoying, so I think I'm gonna check that out. If y'all wouldn't mind just waiting for me like 2 seconds, I'll be right back with you.
Okay, she's gonna lock. She's gonna lock us in here.
That's right, you get out. Let's take care. Oh, well. Look at what the history girl dragged in tonight.
She believes.
Ain't y'all a prize for Jessie? Yeah, sheriff's away, and them history tellers drag people in here. I don't know why you come in here at night like this.
I had nowhere to
It's
go.
haunted. Y'all know that, right? Yeah, you're smiling still. We may be changing that, so I'll tell you what. Well, I got rid of her for you, and so you're stuck with me now. Like I said, my name's Jessie, and I'm kind of the sheriff's deputy tonight while he's away. But he could be coming back any minute. So we're gonna have to watch out for him, okay? Because if you see him, you gotta tell me we gotta hide. He don't take kindly to guests after dark like this. Now that's him right there. Tall guy in the black hat. That's who you're watching for, okay?
Lincoln?
But I know you ain't here to hear stories about this place. And better believe I know him way better than any old history girl. Right? I mean, clearly. But I ain't like the ones on death row, okay? I didn't murder nobody. I swear it. I was just pickpockets. That's what the sheriff says, anyway. But tonight, maybe, I guess on behalf of myself and my boon companions in this place, I'll tell you about all 8 of them hangings. Well, you come in here, you're scared of me. Yes. Come on in. Yeah, get in here all the way, make sure. So I'm gonna start this first story right now with the guy in the middle of them gallows. Sim Jackson. This is his execution day. Sim's up there and he's holding flowers. Of all things. We didn't think he deserved them flowers. I mean, considering what he'd done to his wife. Did y'all hear about that? That was a really bad night for her, for sure. Yeah, they had a big argument. We honestly don't know who started it, but Sim, he definitely finished it up. He told me he had to shut her up real good.
She started it.
Well, he took his straight shaving razor in the end there, and he just wound up hacking at her neck. And, well, there are little ones in the room, I see, so I'm not going to tell you every gory detail. But let's say it was a bloody mess. and its crime put him right on death row. Exactly where he belongs, don't you think? Yeah, for sure. So this is his day. Now, Sim Jackson has built his own gallows like they all do. He has slept right there in that cell overlooking his gallows. If you look through that window back there, you can see them, can't you? Them gallows. No, just look through the window. They're there, trust me, because that's where they all built them, and then they're sleeping there having to gape at them at their own death trap. So this is Sim's day. There are 500 some people there. Sheriff Perry sells tickets for these events, you realize. So he gets up there, all he wants to do is make a grand speech to the whole crowd.
He went on and on like a preacher man. Of all things, he's giving us a Sunday morning sermon up there. I'll never forget it. He ended with this. He told us all in that crowd, he said, someday I'm going to see all of y'all in heaven. Really? In heaven. I think he went the other way, honestly. Anyway, not mine to say, but guess who these guys are? These two guys, fancy hats, fancy suits. They be brain doctors from up north. They come all the way down here to perform some experiments on the guys who are hanging on the noose. They want to find out how long a man can keep his conscious brain going while he's hanging. Interesting.
Fantastic.
So they just tell Sim, all we want you to do when you drop, we want you to wiggle your fingers as long as you can. All right? So he agrees. Sim drops, all right, and he starts wiggling his fingers. He's hanging there just wiggling away 5 whole minutes. But he weren't done yet. No, he's still hanging there, wiggling his fingers. 11 whole minutes altogether. He was conscious, hanging there, fighting for his every breath. Horrible. Took 14 whole minutes before they declared him dead. That's an awful long time when you think about it, hanging there on the noose, ain't it? But don't feel too sorry for him. I mean, you remember what he did, right? Kind of deserved it. Well, so did the next guy up there. One of the other ones anyway, Steve Johnson. Any of y'all there for Steve's Day? Sheriff sells tickets. Y'all ain't going to these grand events, are you? Well, anyway, Steve builds his own gallows too. He's up there on his day, and he's the opposite of Sam. He don't say nothing. He's quiet as a mouse. We don't even know what he's thinking. All of a sudden, though, Steve just took off his boots. What is he going to do with his boots? And then we realize he sees his best friend in the crowd. And so he leans down over the edge of his gallows and he says, hey, man, take my boots. You got to give them to my wife. She ain't got the money to bury my whole body and honor me properly. But she'll want to bury my boots in my honor. That's what he said. Do y'all think them boots actually made it to Steve's wife? No. She didn't want nothing to do with him after his murderous deed. So that means we got Steve's boots upstairs still. Do y'all want to go see him?
Yeah.
Want to go upstairs? Yeah, let's go up there and look in that cell block. We can hide from the sheriff a lot better up there. Because he'll come through that front door and he won't come up there right away. So stay close. Watch out for
I'm just having fun though. We're making the most of it.
If you're telling me I'm late, my gas late. Come on, that was
I
funny.
thought it really bad. I'm scared to come like, oh
So
my God, is
do
there
I.
do it together.
Well, hey, we'll clean this place out. The gas chamber.
They moved. They were over there before.
Pork and beans were over there, now they moved them.
Well, you eat pork and beans.
Our pinto beans were over there.
You eat pinto beans too. I'd end up starving to death.
I've already cleaned up the bean slop in there.
I live in Alabama and I don't eat cornbread.
Well, the general population. And then go two steps down, careful now. They don't mean taking themselves, but I would not lay on the beds. You will get lice if you do that. Careful, 2 steps down. Woo! Careful. 2 steps down, like I've been saying. All right.
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Head on in that cell block there.
Or is that the wrong sign?
There'll be 4 beds in each cell. That would mean 8 men to sleep in there.
Oh, I made it. Stop that. My workout here.
Please don't use before the buckets.
Can I just go in here? Warm. I want to.
You're blinding us. Brady?
there anybody in here? Make a sound if you're in here.
You light in there. So I can see.
I feel that. That's actually comfy. Hey, I'm trying to sleep here tonight. Turn that light off.
He thinks that's comfy. He wants to sleep with him.
I'm telling you, something's gonna move.
Here we go with the boots. Y'all got had them. The murderer's boots. I'm gonna put them on the table right here in the light, if you don't mind, sir. Right there. Everybody can see in the middle there. Steve Johnson's boots, the murderer's shoes. Yeah, well, them boots, they actually weren't the most interesting thing about that day. Do you believe Steve got hanged with 2 other men beside him as well? Yeah, their names were Eugene Baxter and Tom White. They came down here from Jacksonville way, because up there they had brutally beaten a shopkeeper named Isaac. Isaac didn't make it through the night, so, well, that made these 2 murderers. Right quick. And would you believe they actually begged to come all the way down here and serve out their sentence in St. Augustine? Because they knew Sheriff Perry would make short order of it. They did not want to spend much time in these cells here, with good reason, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, they wanted it done and over with quick, and so Sheriff said, no problem. He just scheduled a triple hanging, them 2 right along with Steve. May 31st, 1912 it was, and Sheriff thought this was a grand execution. He sold a lot of tickets for it. I think everybody in town came out for this one. Yeah, but once they saw 3 men drop at once, it was a bit much. It seemed that the town lost its stomach for such grand execution days, and so they told Sheriff Perry, no more executions like this. We don't need 3 men dropping at once. It's too much. So them 3, they were actually the last 3 to get hanged here.
Oh, great. Hey.
I
That's
shut
fun.
this for your own protection.
Do we all become friends?
Just so you know. Now
I
I'm
could
going
eat
to
your
tell
ear
you
a lot of
about a
meat.
man you don't want to meet in the middle of the night. George Hawkins. He stalked people. Yeah, he did not say that. He was much more sinister than any old Casper the Ghost. Yeah, George, he stalked people, and one night he found his perfect
that you?
prey.
Yeah.
There's a Syrian peddler that would come into town selling cheap jewelry, trinkets, and things, and well, George was following him one night through the woods right outside of town. Charles was that peddler's name, and he was just a minding his own business.
That's real.
George followed him. George was ducking behind trees and bushes. Real sneaky like George was, just a watching.
George's gonna go.
And waiting. For the exact Finally, George jumped all the way onto the wedge. And now, George had a knife in his hand. He took this knife and he just plunged it right in the belly of Charles and swiped him up to his neck. But he weren't even done yet.
Imagine they can't open.
Y'all want to know what he did then? Yeah, I tell you, yeah, he took his bare hand, shoved that bare hand inside that man's belly, grabbed onto his insides, and made him his outsides. He disemboweled him completely. Horrible, grisly crime when you think about it. I mean, then George loaded Charles's body on that man's own wagon, dragged him further in the woods and dumped him for dead. George thought he'd get away with this. But oh no, he did not realize Charles's horse was getting hungry. Yeah, that horse turned all the way around with a blood-soaked buggy. He wandered back into town looking for a snack. Oh, that buggy just left a bloody trail the whole way. And that's exactly how the sheriff got right back to the spot where Charles had been murdered and gutted. George was arrested 2 days later, he was. Yeah, Sheriff Perry did right this time catching George Hawkins. Sheriff Perry doesn't always do right with these things. Would y'all believe that an innocent man got hanged here? Yep. You know the sheriff, don't you? Yeah, Robert Lee's his name. Robert didn't murder nobody. He did not deserve to be on death row, and yet he got hanged. And that's why we hear him crying out. He's the one that really haunts this place. Because he has unfinished business with the sheriff. Oh, yeah, he cries out for justice. He proclaims his innocence still. Why don't y'all listen for a second? Be real quiet. See if you can hear Robert. Sometimes I hear him. Sheriff Perry, I didn't do it. Sheriff, you got the wrong guy. This ain't right. I don't belong behind bars. Sheriff, you can find another witness or something. I didn't murder nobody. I don't belong here. I definitely don't belong on death row, Sheriff Perry. Justice ain't being served, and I gotta get home. I gotta feed my dog and take care of things. Sheriff Perry, I am innocent. Robert was innocent. But his best friend, James Kirby, was not. James had murdered a man for his money. But he was such a coward. He didn't want to come in this place by himself, so he blamed his best friend along with him. What was that for friendship? Well, it's good. I mean, actually, there be morals to Jesse's stories. Listen up, you youngins in here. Be careful who you hang around with. You could wind up on death row, even if you're innocent. That's what happened to Robert. They both got brought in here. They both built their gallows, and Sheriff Perry scheduled a double hanging. Sold lots of tickets. And then come a little while before they were going to drop them. Oh, one night them ropes were just a-swinging in the breeze, and James started to feel guilty. So James actually went to the sheriff to tell the truth. He said, Sheriff Perry, you ought to let Robert go. He did not help me with this crime. Do y'all think the sheriff's going to do that? No, it was too late for Robert. The gallows had been built, the tickets had been sold. Sheriff Perry said, we're having this hanging. And why would I believe a murderer's conscience? So 2 men did drop together that day. One guilty, yes. But one was innocent. I mean, that ain't right. That ain't justice being served around here. Tell you what, that old dog Perry, he don't know the first thing. Who's coming? I see his horse and buggy on the road. Oh no, I didn't finish cleaning the kitchen. Okay, I will be in big trouble. Y'all be real quiet. Real quiet. Don't let the sheriff know you're here. And if I finish in time, I'll try to come get you. I'll try. Wait a minute. Now Jesse feels guilty. I just said how an innocent man shouldn't be behind bars, didn't I? Are y'all innocent?
Yeah.
Well, you don't sound sure, but I'll take it. Come on, let's all get out this way.
You're not.
It depends.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
It depends on what they're talking about.
I mean, you don't need to take this stuff serious. Quit acting up. We're having fun, bro. I need my workout doing this. I need my workout doing this for full trash.
Well, Linda, at least you ain't doing those. Linda, at least you're not doing those. There's.
What's it do up there?
What time to get down?
Watch out, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have problems going up. I'm seeing the one falling down them.
Careful there, but hurry a little bit, because Sheriff is coming. Oh, careful now. Oh.
I can't go too fast.
You
You
get
have to deal with
plenty.
it.
I can't all be helped. Come on down now. I want to tell you about Charlie Powell. He was my friend. He's my favorite one on death row or on sleeve. You can have favorites like that. Come on down now, y'all. Gather around right here. Right around these gallows. Take a good look at them. They are pretty eerie in the night. honestly, they don't look no better by day.
I don't think it could
All
hold
right,
you.
we all good? Everybody out. Now, come on down careful. Well, Charlie Powell, last guy to see gallows like this, but many of us think that Charlie Powell never ever should have been hanged. Now, he did kill a man, yes, but we think he had a justifiable reason for this. Now, I'll tell you what happened. You see, there was another man in town who was speaking unsavory things about Charlie's wife. Now, that ain't right. I mean, y'all understand, right? You would never let anybody say unsavory things about your loved ones, would you? Would you? You would? No. Oh, okay. You have to understand Charlie on this one. He loved his wife. He could not let this man say this stuff, and so one night, he shut that guy up good. That man was yakking away, so Charlie picked up his pistol and bam, he shot him right where he stood. And Charlie was a good shot. That put him on death row, though. Charlie, he was on death row for the love of his wife. Told you he's a good guy. Well, poor Charlie. His day finally came, and he had built his gallows just like this. And well, on his day, Charlie wasn't feeling too good. And you might say, well, of course not. I mean, who would be feeling good on the day of their execution, right? But Charlie was honestly plumb sick. Yeah, and if you read the rule book, you'd know. If you're sick, they're supposed to postpone your hanging. You gotta be healthy to be hanged. That's what it says. Yeah, but y'all think Sheriff Perry's gonna honor this rule? No, he don't care. He sold his tickets. Charlie's gotta get out here. The crowd was gathering. So Charlie does come out here, but he's actually so sick that he winds up passing out. Now, how's he gonna climb up to his gallows? He can't. But Sheriff gets a grand idea. Sheriff Perry says, all right, men, you go get me a board. You come back here, tie that board onto Charlie's back, hoist him up there, get him standing straight and tall, noose high, and ready to drop. That's what they did. He's still passed out. They got him up there standing with that rope around his neck, and he drops all right. But now, with the weight of the board on his back, Charlie's too heavy for his rope. It broke, and he came tumbling all the way to the ground. He flipped over and landed right here. I'll never forget it. Poor Charlie. Get off of Charlie. Poor Charlie. He's laying there, and he's moaning, groaning. He's not passed out no more, and his neck was twisted all cattywampus like it was broken or something. And that's when the crowd starts going crazy. They are running in from every direction, and they're saying, save Charlie! Justice for Charlie. That's not what Sheriff said. Sheriff Perry said, nope, hang him again. What? Hang him again? Yeah, he said, man, go get me another rope, a bigger rope, a stronger rope. You do this thing right. Well, Charlie's laying there, he's moaning. The people are trying to comfort him and give him water, and oh, in the end, it took him a while to find a rope, and so I guess it was a blessing. Charlie Powell expired before that rope could be retrieved. Oh. No! No! Sheriff Perry, Sheriff! No, sir. You can't. Well, of course I'll clean the kitchen. Yeah, Jesse always cleans the kitchen. You know that. No, so you can't hang me for that. No, they distracted me. Sheriff, I'm sorry. No, you can't hang me for that. No, I'm out of here now. No, Sheriff, no.
And where were you guys? And you told to stay in the room. You didn't stay in the room. When I got back, there was no one in the room. I started running around these weird ladies. Actually, you know, I just realized I don't know, and I don't want to know. This stays between, say, me and you, and definitely you, and we all go back to patrolling. And no one else.
I think this is it.
Charlie's fine.
I would honor you. Maybe.
What?
I told her I'd honor her. Maybe.
I'm out here in Miami looking for the hoochie daddy. Hoochie tape, a booty move brown.
You know that's on film now.
No, bro.
Yeah.
Delete that.
I can't.
Mute it. Something. Copyright. I'll sing it. You got copyright that. Howdy. Look.
Our second and final stop on tour. And if you did, let's give a great big round of applause to the senior back there to Jesse.
Turn it over there, Dad. I'll play.
Alright, I'll let her know she's got a fan club started. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you enjoyed the jail, but I have a little bit of a warning to give you about that building. Some of our spirits here have been known to make a jailbreak and follow guests home. But don't you worry, I do have a solution, so if you happen to feel a creeping presence just behind you tonight, be sure that you simply turn around and tell it, "Don't follow me home, ghost." The spirits will be sure to listen to your request and remain behind. So if you leave the jail behind tonight, why don't we all try that together on 3, 2, 1. Don't follow me home, ghost. Good job, everyone. Now, guys, I know tonight we talked a lot about this town's history and about many haunted events taking place here over the years, but we have yet to talk about where things all began. So let's go all the way back to 1565. When St. Augustine was first founded, fierce conflict soon followed. Fleets of the French descended from the north, ready to attack the newly arrived Spanish forces. Now, the French were confident that they could easily overwhelm the Spanish, so they forgot they were headed here in the middle of hurricane season. Suddenly, without warning, they were pummeled by a furious storm that erupted off the coast and smashed their ships to timbers. Less than 200 men managed to struggle their way to shore, but they were soon captured by the Spanish, who gave them a choice. They said you can become one of us, and by extension become Catholic, or you can die. And the French were very devout Protestants. They didn't like this idea. They outright refused, and so one by one they were slaughtered by sword, and their bodies were thrown into the Matanzas Bay until those waters ran red for 3 whole days. Now, our first recorded haunting actually comes from the 16th century priest who wrote in his diary that he saw the waters of the Matanzas Bay turning a blood-red hue on a moonlit night. And it seems like many others have since seen the same thing. Some have even seen ghostly ships of the past glowing in the moonlight, sailing into the harbor, then disappearing without a trace as they approach the shore, as if there are still phantom soldiers trying to make landfall in St. Augustine today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you enjoyed that story, because unfortunately it was our last one for the tour. Now, if you're wondering how you can ward off any wandering spirits that might have grown past you during the course of our journey tonight, we tell you not to worry. You've got a few options. First of all, you can try a little Don't Follow Me Home Ghost Trip from before, or if you want something just a bit more effective, might I recommend donating to our gratuity hat. Open in a very good word with the spirits and tell them all about your generous donation, or we can use it as Rob Banks' bail money. If you guys liked the tour tonight, my name is Aster. If you did not, I was a ghost and none of this was ever real. Either way, please leave us a review on Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor, your favorite review site, as we'd love to hear what you have to say. Please stay seated until the trolley comes to a full and complete stop, and especially at the conclusion of our tour, make sure you're grabbing all of your personal belongings with you to take as you leave. We're going to pull the trolley over here. Don't you worry, you don't have to wait for us to exit. You're going to be free to go. Just make sure you're very careful on those steps, and remember to have a wonderful time here in St. Augustine. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah.
Thank you.